everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chats, Stats, and Fun Facts, a 2025 season preview brought to you by the Dry Pink Dialogue. Today, we are talking about Fafa Picault. This is the first of many new players that we're going to profile over the next couple weeks. But he's the first one that's a new incoming player. We've only seen him play a couple games for Inter Miami this preseason. He has played in all 3 games so far. Got 2 starts. I think we've seen enough of him to have a sense of who he is as a player. I think we've known over the past couple years what he is as a player in the MLS. So I think we have a fairly good idea of what he is as a player. But I'll leave it to you first. What is the first thing that comes to mind when I mention Fafa Picault?
Speed demon. Now, let me rephrase that. Veteran speed demon. He's so quick. When he used to play against us, I would absolutely hate him because he would rinse every single one of our defenders and just so gutsy and annoying and constantly on our defenders' feet, just challenging them, creating difficult opportunities for the defenders. And I really now like the fact that I don't have to see him play against us because he's going to be doing everything that I just said for us. Very happy that he signed for us. Very excited to see him play. He's played 2 games. I think he's looked really nice and sharp. Can't wait for the regular season.
Yeah, and the thing about his pace is it's nuanced. It's not like he's Adama Traore that's just blazing down the sideline. He is he's a step slower than that, I think. But he's smart with when he makes his runs, and he's relentless on how frequently he does it. And so it is, I think, more annoying and more pesky. And I think that's why you hated playing against him. And I hated playing against him too, because the pace comes with like the intelligence to know when to make the runs, the cleverness of how to make the runs, and then just the relentlessness to keep making those runs. So I'm excited to have him on the team. I think that this was an incredible signing. I think Inter Miami probably looked around the MLS and said, who's one player that this team could really use? And I think if we had played that game at the beginning of the offseason, we would have said Fafa Picault, because he just is such a profile that fits this team so well. And we probably, I mean, honestly, I didn't think there was any chance that could have happened. And yet, Raul Sanyehi and the front office went out and got him. So he's on the team now. He started the first 2 preseason games on that left side. I think that's where he's going to deploy best, on the left wing, left midfield role of this 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2 type formation that we've got going on so far. And I like it. Here's my fun fact. This is his 2nd season calling Fort Lauderdale home. He once played for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers at the old Lockhart Stadium, which, if you're not a South Florida sports historian, was in the same location as the current Chase Stadium, also known as Dry Pink Stadium, to some on this podcast. Last season for the Vancouver Whitecaps in the MLS Leagues Cup, MLS playoffs, and the Canadian Championship, he played 40 games, 2,254 minutes, 10 goals, and 8 assists. That's 18 goal contributions in 2,200 minutes, 2,300 minutes. That is really good delivery of production for a player that you aren't expecting to lead your team.
Yeah, and I still remember playing against Vancouver last season. And Fafa Picault, I don't remember if he started or not, but he had like an 8-point-something rating with no assists and no goals. He was just everywhere. And I don't remember if he scored a goal, but I just remember he played so well that entire game.
Inter Miami was dominating that game 2-0, and then he earned a penalty on Tota Aviles, which he wasn't given the opportunity to convert it. I think Brian White converted the penalty, and then he had a just pure effort, hustle, get into the box, get his head on a incoming swinger and put it off the post or put it half a yard wide or something. But it could have been the equalizer. Fortunately, Inter Miami escaped with a 2-1 win, but he was the reason Vancouver made that game competitive win for the first 50 to 60 minutes. It looked like it wouldn't be. And that's the type of X factor that I know him as, right? The year before for Nashville, he was the guy that kept Inter Miami honest when they wanted to just play ball dominant, play through Messi. He was the guy that really made it difficult for them to do that and allowed them to be defensively very tight. I think he has like a real X factor to him, and that's something I'm really excited to see play out for Inter Miami. I want to warn people there will be games where he feels like he doesn't have a huge impact, but that's sort of the nature of being an X factor is they're going to come out of nowhere and they're going to be really good for your team. That's who I think Fafa Picault is. But on top of that, he adds this pacey left winger profile that Inter Miami really, really needed.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to get at with that conversation as well. That he may not score a goal, he may not assist too many. Yes, he had 18 goal contributions, which is quite decent. But in a game like that, he can just be such an important X factor, and it'll be the intangibles that you can't really see him do. But he's going to press hard. He's going to be a menace for the opposition defenders. He's going to just constantly be pesky and create problems for the opposition. That's going to allow some of our other attackers to flourish and be able to use whatever opportunity he creates. So in that first game that we saw against Club America, you could see him make that dummy run inside that would allow either Jordi Alba to run down the wing or create a channel for Messi to come through as well. There's just so many things that he does that would go underappreciated by the fans in the first watch. But I think this team really needed that in that attacking front line, especially after Diego Gomez left, because without Fafa Picault, our line up front would look very, very slow. And we need somebody to make those runs in behind the defenders, to be able to get in behind and actually play on the shoulder of the defenders rather than constantly behind the defenders. And Fafa Picault does exactly that. As you said, he keeps defenders honest. And by doing that, he will create space for other players to go out and express themselves and for Lionel Messi to be the best version of himself. I'm very excited to see him play on that wing side because we need players to hold the width and stretch out the field so that our midfield can be a little bit more free in the way they play. That's what we missed last season. I'm hoping that this season, some of that gets solved with Fafa Picault on that left-hand side.
I have a theory that it's forming in my brain as we're talking right now, but I think that this entire formation is going to be very standardized for 9 out of the 11 positions. Regardless of opponent, regardless of sort of how much of the ball we have, it's going to have very similar requirements from the center backs, from the fullbacks, from Messi and Suarez, from the two interior, double pivot in the midfield, the goalkeeper, but that the real adjustments are going to come in those two wide players on either side. Do you need guys that are going to have pace over the top? Do you need guys that are going to be good in possession? Do you need guys that can beat guys one-on-one? That's why I think Inter Miami's loading up on those wide players, and they do have a bunch of them. Right? It's not just Fafa Picault, it's Julian Gressel, it's Robert Taylor, it's potentially Baltasar Rodriguez, for example. They already moved on Facundo Farias, and that doesn't include Messi and some of the younger guys, Leo Alfonso, Santi Morales, guys like that.
Tadeo Allende as well.
Thank you. Tadeo Allende, I think Talasco Segovia might be able to play out there a little bit. So that, I think, is going to be those two positions, I think, are going to be the key to the nuance from game to game. I think having a weapon like Fafa Picault is going to be really nice to have when you need that type of weapon. So I think it's the perfect signing. I loved it from the get-go. I think he's going to be a great player for Inter Miami, and I'm excited for the X factor. We saw Leo Campana last year get a couple of game-winning goals in the dying minutes, and he feels like the kind of guy that could provide those when not everything's quite working with the starting lineup or with the main guys, but you just need someone to just step up in the final moments. That feels like something Fafa Picault can do. So I'm super excited about what he's going to do this year.
Yeah, and he's flashy as well. He had a brilliant nutmeg in his first game for Inter Miami. He's now finally got a goal as well. He brings that little bit of spice in the pitch that gets the fans behind the team, and that's what I really like. He's going to keep running for 90 minutes. But I think the biggest X factor that he will bring will also be off the bench. When the opposition is tired, when everyone's down and not ready to do as much pressing, you bring on Fafa Picault off the bench and he's going to absolutely rinse the opposition defenders. He can just run in behind, and we've got players who can put in the balls behind the defense. Sergio Busquets coming in from deep, Lionel Messi finding a beautiful ball. We've got the players who are able to do that. Jordi Alba as well. I'm really excited to see how we utilize Fafa Picault, whether it's from the starting 11 or whether it's off the bench, because there's multiple ways he can contribute to this team. And it's just something very unique that this team didn't have before. So that's why I think it's even more exciting to see him play. He's 33, maybe getting older, and that doesn't necessarily worry me because it feels like he still has that level of physicality and athleticism to bring that spark to this
Yeah.
team. And I'm very excited, as you said.
Well, that's something I wanted to bring up as well, because it does feel like basically since the day Messi arrived and Tata Martino arrived, there's been a very specific profile of player they've looked to bring in, with a very rare exception. And that's Latin American young players, guys that they can grow and they can recruit and then they can move on. And Fafa Picault really broke that mold. Even this offseason, lots of players from South America, lots of Argentines, lots of young players that Javier Mascherano has seen or scouted as a member of the Argentine U20 team. This is the mold breaker, and I think it's because exactly what we talked about. They watched him last year play for Vancouver, and maybe in particular against Inter Miami, and said, this is the type of do-it-all, X-factor type player we could really use on the left wing. And now that he's a free agent, we have to go get him, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, the deal was right there for them to make it happen. And he brings in MLS experience in abundance. We have a younger team who doesn't necessarily have that much MLS experience. So having someone like Fafa Pico, who's a veteran, who's played away in probably every single stadium that is there in the MLS, he brings a bunch of experience. So when you're actually in the trenches, you need to dig out a result and you're struggling. He's the one who's actually going to lead the squad. I hope he's the one who's actually going to lead the squad up from the trenches to try and get a result against difficult opposition. When you don't have Messi on the pitch for some reason, he can be a leader. He can lead from the front. So I'm really excited to see him take on that role and responsibility as well, to be that MLS veteran in the squad.
Well, and the other thing is he knows his role too, right? Like
Exactly.
the thing with some of these young signings is you promise them they're going to start frequently, and then you kind of have to be held to that regardless of performance. That's not the same with these veterans, like a Fafa Picault, who's coming in knowing he might not be the locked in starter on the left wing. Okay, let's get to predictions for 2025. I have a unique prediction, but I don't want to use it for the over under. So here's what I'll go with: over under 7.5 goals in 2025 for Inter Miami. He had 10 last season, but the minutes might come down depending on how much he starts. But also he'll be on a team that is going to score, I think, more goals than Vancouver scored last year overall. And so can he be a big part of that? He's also potentially going to play some striker. So what do you think? 7.5 goals, over or under?
Over. I'm going to go over. I'm confident. I think he's going to definitely get a few goals, last minute goals that won't be defining the game itself, but when we've already got a result like at 2-0, he's going to come on maybe and score another goal to make it 3-0, or he's going to be one of those players that actually gets us the last minute winners. I think he's going to score both those kinds of goals, and that's why he's going to score a bunch. I think more than 7.5.
This is my hot take for Fafa Picault. I think 7.5 is a really good number. I think it might be 7. I think it might be 8. I'll go with 8 just because I'm optimistic. Here's my hot take. As you guys know, when we do our post-game, full game recaps, we give out awards, and we give out a Heron of the match and a Heron that flew north. And those are sort of locked in on what they are, right? The best player and the player that had the worst performance. But then we give out 4 individual awards that are generally for smaller but noticeable things. I have a feeling that Fafa Picault is going to lead Inter Miami in secondary awards or individual awards this season, because I think he's going to do so many interesting things on the pitch that make us think this guy needs an award for that. And it might not be scoring 3 goals, but it might just be that one run that opened everything up, or that one late tackle that saved a big play. But I think he's going to be the guy that does that one little thing every single game that demands an award from us. So I think my hot take is he's going to lead Inter Miami in individual awards this year from the Dry Pink Dialogue.
That's actually that's a really fun one. And I don't doubt it. That's possible, because those awards aren't always positive. They could be negative as well. But I'll be honest, I think he seems like a person who we're really going to enjoy watching play. So I already have a couple in mind, and I have a feeling you might be absolutely right in this. I don't think I can top that.
I will say, so one of the reasons, I'm speaking to the audience here. One of the reasons we didn't do any awards in our post-game recaps is because, and Saur mentioned this first, we wanted to save some of our award names for the regular season. And so Saur better bring it when it comes.
I don't think you should be the one talking here because I'm always the more creative one. So let's see who has the better awards. But anyways, Fafa Picault winning everything with Inter Miami.
We'll see about that.
We'll see.
Okay, guys, thanks for being a part of it, and we will see you guys in the next one. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.